My name is Brielle Sutton. I'm 32. Last winter, I came home for what was supposed to be a temporary family reset. Instead, I walked into my childhood bedroom and found my younger sister's boyfriend asleep in my bed. My mother handed me a folded cot. In the laundry room, like this was normal. My sister smiled. My father said nothing. Then my dad's sister walked through the front door, saw where I was sleeping, and her face changed instantly, because unlike everyone else in that house, she immediately realized I had not been told the full story. I opened the bedroom door. Stopped cold. A man's shoes. A gaming headset. Protein powder on my dresser. Then Derek rolled over in my bed. My actual bed. Shirtless. Confused. I just stood there. Because sometimes disrespect is so ridiculous. Your brain buffers. That was my first warning. Mom appeared behind me, perfectly calm. Don't make this dramatic. Interesting opener? Not surprise. Not, let me explain. Just accusation. Then she handed me a folded camping cot. Laundry room's cleared. I laughed. Actually laughed, because I thought she was joking. She wasn't. My sister Cassidy leaned against the hallway wall, smiling. Not awkward, not apologetic. Smiling. Derek's between places. Interesting phrase. Adult code for disaster. I asked, in my room? She shrugged. Temporary. People excuse a lot of bad behavior with one word. Temporary. Temporary. That word mattered. A lot. I looked at Dad. Thomas. Newspaper in hand. Watching everything. Waiting. Surely this was where sanity entered. Instead? Silence. Just silence. Then a tiny shrug. That hurt more than Mom. Because cruelty is one thing. Passive permission? Different wound. Mom actually showed me the setup. Cot. Thin blanket. Detergent shelves. Water heater humming. No door. Interesting hospitality. I stared at her. You're serious? She sighed. Brielle, it's just sleeping. Because apparently dignity has become optional when you're not the favorite. Then Derek appeared. Stretching. Completely comfortable. Hey, thanks for understanding. I turned slowly. Because entitled people mirror whatever permission they're given. I asked, did anyone tell you this was my room? He blinked. Then, Cass said it was basically extra space. Oh, that mattered. I walked back inside. Half my stuff gone. Books missing. Photos boxed. Closet reorganized. Temporary my foot. This wasn't guest accommodation, this was replacement. Someone had planned this. Carefully. I wasn't just offended, I was suspicious. Mom crossed her arms. Cassidy needs support. There it was. Translation. Your needs rank lower. I asked. So I'm what? She sighed dramatically. Older. Right. That was apparently her logic. Age apparently equals disposability. If your family ever treated your boundaries like inconvenience, comment absolutely not. Cassidy laughed. Like you even live here. I froze. That sentence landed wrong. Too confident. Too prepared. Like this conversation had happened before I arrived. I looked at Dad. Then Mom. Then back at Cassidy. I had a very different question. Then the doorbell rang. Dad stood too quickly. Mom looked nervous. Also interesting. Cassidy's smile disappeared. Best sign yet. Dad opened the door, and my Aunt Evelyn walked in, took one look at the laundry cot, then at my mother, and said, "What exactly do you think you're doing?" Silence. Nobody said a word. Aunt Evelyn did not hug anyone. She just stared at the laundry cot, then at me, then at Mom. Explain. One word. Sharp. Mom immediately smiled too brightly. Bad sign. Oh, it's temporary. That word again. Evelyn looked unimpressed. Good. Because finally, someone sane had entered the house. Aunt Evelyn does not do nonsense. Retired real estate attorney. Never had children. always terrifying in heels, Dad's older sister. The only person Mom never fully controlled. That mattered, because when Evelyn says explain, people usually do, unless they're hiding something. Mom laughed. Cassidy and Derek needed space. Interesting? Not explanation. Excuse. Evelyn pointed at me. So Brielle gets the utility closet? Mom stiffened. Don't be dramatic. Wrong woman. Evelyn smiled. Cold smile. Oh, I'm just getting started. For the first time that night, I felt someone was actually on my side. Derek stepped backward immediately. Smart. Because he recognized dangerous adult energy. Maybe I should... Cassidy grabbed his arm. No. Interesting. She wanted him there. Witness? Support? Or ownership flex? Either way, that confidence fascinated me, because Cassidy was acting like she had authority. Why? That question mattered. Evelyn turned to Dad. Thomas? He looked miserable. Good. What? Playing dumb. Classic. Evelyn pointed at the cot. This. Silence. Then Dad muttered. It's temporary. People usually repeat weak lies the most. Cassidy rolled her eyes. God, Aunt Evelyn, it's not like Brielle owns the place. The room changed. Tiny sentence, massive effect. Evelyn went completely still. Then she looked at me. Not Cassidy. Me. That look said, oh. My pulse changed. When I was 26, Dad once said, someday this house helps both daughters. Weird phrasing. At the time, forgettable. Now, not so much, because Evelyn's face had changed, and Cassidy's confidence suddenly looked less random, like maybe someone told her something incomplete. Evelyn asked calmly, Cassidy, who told you that? Silence. Cassidy folded her arms. Mom. Direct hit. Mom snapped. That's enough. People yell when questions get accurate. Evelyn nodded slowly. She gave the kind of look that made people nervous. Mom looked nervous. If someone ever acted entitled to something that wasn't theirs, comment, check the paperwork. Evelyn asked, Thomas, where are the property files? Mom answered too quickly. We don't need that. Beautiful mistake. Because now everyone knew. Yes. Yes, we absolutely did. Dad rubbed his forehead. Cassidy looked confused. Actual confusion. Interesting. That meant she believed whatever she'd been told. Then Mom said the weirdest thing. Dad wanted this. Silence. Everyone turned toward Dad. He looked stunned. What? Dad looked genuinely confused, which meant my mother had just said something he never agreed to. Someone was rewriting family history live. And my aunt? Caught it instantly. Dad looked at Mom. Actually confused. I never said that. Clean. Immediate. Mom froze. Cassidy blinked. Because whatever story Cassidy believed, Dad had not signed on to it. That changed everything. And for the first time, my mother looked cornered. Mom recovered fast. Too fast. That's not what I meant. Classic. I folded my arms. Then what did you mean? Silence. Then. We're family. Amazing. Families always become sacred when accountability arrives. Never before. Evelyn smiled without warmth. That is not an answer. Correct. Cassidy jumped in. Mom said Dad wanted Derek to feel welcome. Interesting. That's smaller. Different story. Not ownership, not entitlement, hospitality, which meant Cassidy had been fed different versions. Useful. Very useful. Because inconsistent lies collapse beautifully under witnesses, and Aunt Evelyn loves collapsing lies. Then Derek finally spoke. Unexpected. Cass told me this was basically becoming their place. The room turned toward Cassidy. Cassidy went pale. Interesting, because apparently Derek had heard a much bigger version. I slowly looked at my sister. She looked furious. Not embarrassed. Furious. That meant exposure, not guilt, was upsetting her. Huge difference. Evelyn asked calmly. Who pays the mortgage? Cassidy answered instantly. Mom and Dad. Then Evelyn asked, with whose money? Silence. Mom stiffened. Dad looked down. That reaction mattered. There was another layer. One I definitely didn't know. Then I remembered something weird. 2 years ago, Dad asked if I could temporarily help during his medical leave. I sent money monthly. Not huge, but consistent. He said it helped household stability. I never questioned it, because he was my dad. Now, that memory felt very different. Very different. Aunt Evelyn noticed immediately. Sharp woman. What? I looked at Dad. Did my transfers go toward this house? Silence. Dad swallowed. Mom answered first. Not exactly. Amazing phrase. Always suspicious. Either yes or no. There is no not exactly in money. I felt sick. Dad finally spoke. Quiet. Yes. The room went silent. Cassidy blinked. What? Dad looked wrecked. Some of Brielle's money helped. My sister stared at me. Actually stunned, because golden children often assume support appears by magic. Not sacrifice. Not from siblings. Magic. If someone used your money while disrespecting you, comment, oh, absolutely not. That's not fair. Cassidy's first words. Not? You paid? Not. Why didn't I know? Just fairness. I laughed. Small. Sharp. Now you care about fairness? She looked furious. Apparently fairness only mattered when her comfort was involved. Then Brielle has more stake here than anyone seems to understand. Silence. Mom whispered, Evelyn. Too late. Cassidy frowned. Derek looked confused. Dad closed his eyes. And I realized I had not known the full story either. I stared at Aunt Evelyn. What does that mean? She looked at Dad. Not me. Dad looked exhausted. Cornered. Then Evelyn answered anyway. It means your father made a legal adjustment years ago. I froze. Cassidy frowned. Mom whispered, no. Interesting reaction. She knew exactly what Evelyn meant. 3 years earlier, Dad had heart surgery. Scary time. Bills. Recovery. Stress. I stepped in. Paid what I could. No resentment. Family is family. That's what I believed. Dad had called it temporary support. Simple. Clean. Now, apparently not so simple. And definitely not clean. Evelyn asked, Thomas, did you document it? Silence. Then Dad nodded. I blinked. Documented? Because families don't usually document emotional help. Unless it wasn't emotional. It was financial. Structured. Real. My stomach dropped. Mom snapped. That was never supposed to matter. That sentence told me everything. I turned slowly. Supposed to? She froze. Too late. Interesting. Because hidden expectations always surface under pressure. My money was welcome. My dignity? Less so. Cassidy looked genuinely confused. Wait. Finally. Healthy question. What are we talking about? Dad rubbed his face. The refinancing. Cassidy blinked. What refinancing? Cassidy clearly had never asked how any of this actually worked. Why would she? Comfort feels automatic when other people build it. Ironically, Derek understood before Cassidy. His face changed. Hold on. Then to me. You helped save the house? I laughed once. Dark laugh. Apparently. Cassidy whipped toward Mom. You said Brielle barely contributed around here. Silence. Beautiful silence. Mom had 2 angry daughters. Dad sat down heavily. During my recovery, we almost lost the house. That landed hard. Mom looked away. Dad continued. Brielle's transfers helped qualify refinancing. Boom. Not symbolic help. Actual structural help. Legal help. Real money. I sat down. The laundry cot became even more insulting. This wasn't just disrespect. This was exploitation. Evelyn crossed her arms. Thomas protected that contribution. Protected. Cassidy frowned. How? Dad stayed silent. Evelyn answered. Recorded interest. The room went completely still. Derek actually whispered, "Oh," because even he understood now. Everyone looked at me differently. Not guest. Not inconvenience. Stakeholder. If family disrespected you after benefiting from your sacrifice, like this video, subscribe and comment, know your worth. Mom stepped forward fast. That was temporary. Again that word. Incredible consistency. Evelyn smiled coldly. Temporary doesn't erase documentation. Mom looked genuinely panicked now. That reaction told me exactly what I needed to know. Because people only fear paperwork when paperwork disagrees with their fantasy. Mom had built an entire fantasy. I looked around the room, then asked the obvious question. If I have legal recorded interest? Pause. Everyone stared. Then, why exactly am I sleeping next to Bleach? Nobody answered. That silence was answer enough. They understood the power shift. I asked, why am I sleeping next to Bleach? Nobody answered. Because silence sounds different after legal words enter a room. Mom crossed her arms, defensive. Dad looked ashamed. Cassidy looked stunned. Derek slowly backed away. Smartest move he'd made all night. And for the first time, I wasn't asking emotionally. I was asking from leverage. Mom finally snapped. Because Cassidy needs stability. There it was. The real reason. No fake politeness. No temporary nonsense. Pure favoritism. I tilted my head. And I don't? She laughed once. Ugly laugh. You're stronger. That sentence. Classic parent abuse logic. Punish the capable. Reward the dependent. I was done. Cassidy stared at Mom. Wait. Real confusion. You told me Brielle barely helped this family. Mom froze. Caught. Cassidy looked at Dad. Is that true? Dad whispered. No. And just like that, my sister's confidence cracked. Because entitlement built on lies collapses fast. Derek grabbed his duffel bag. No argument, no speech. Just, Cass, call me. Even he understood this was toxic. Cassidy snapped. You knew? He shrugged. Not this. Fair. Fair. Then he walked out of my bedroom. Which was deeply satisfying. Very deeply satisfying. I didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't beg. Instead, I looked at Dad. Calm. Show me the paperwork. Evelyn smiled. Tiny smile. Because that was exactly the right move. Mom panicked instantly. We don't need to do this tonight. Which means, yes. Yes, we absolutely did. Dad brought the folder. Real folder. Refinancing documents. Addendum. Recorded contribution acknowledgement. My name. My signature. I barely remembered signing. Because I trusted Dad. Evelyn pointed calmly. There. Recorded equity interest. Cassidy sat down hard. Mom actually looked dizzy. The family hierarchy had a paperwork problem. I looked at Mom, then at the laundry cot, then my old bedroom, then said, no. Mom blinked. No what? I smiled. No more disrespect. Pause. Derek leaves. At Cassidy. Room gets restored. At Mom. Or we discuss legal partition. Nobody argued. Even Mom knew I was serious. Because consequences had entered the chat. If family only respects you when paperwork appears, like this video, subscribe and comment boundaries plus documents. Mom cried. Actual crying. Not elegant crying. Messy, angry crying. How can you do this to family? Amazing sentence. I laughed softly. How did you? That landed. Because emotional hypocrisy hates mirrors. Dad didn't defend her. His silence was pointed somewhere else. 6 weeks later, Derek gone. Bedroom restored. Cassidy moved into a rental. Mom weirdly polite. Huge transformation. Dad started actual, honest conversations. Even bigger transformation. Evelyn checked in weekly. Of course she did. Legend. And me? No more laundry room, no more fake gratitude, no more being the easy daughter. As Aunt Evelyn left that night, she hugged me, then whispered, "Your mother counted on your decency." Pause. Then, "She forgot your father counted on your money." That sentence stayed with me, because it explained everything. I came home expecting inconvenience. I found exploitation. My mother handed me a cot. My aunt handed me clarity. And that changed the entire house.